Raiders and gangs in Fallout range from sadistic human skin wearers to pre-war games like the Yakuza still existing in the present world. In this video, I'm going to show off many of them. Maybe some you know about, maybe some you don't. Not every raider group is in this video. Some are too large and I wanted to cover them in a whole video in the future. And some we've already covered in these videos. So just keep that in mind. I'm currently doing a series on every faction in Fallout every Tuesday. So if you love Fallout, then you're definitely in the right place. We have tons of Fallout content on the channel and a lot more to come, so consider subbing. Enjoy the video, guys. The Raiders in Fallout 3 are probably the most common threat across the Capital Wasteland. They're drug-fueled gangs who live without laws, attacking pretty much anyone they come across. They don't have much in common with the organized raider groups of the West Coast, except maybe the Fiends out in the Mojave. Most encounters with them are in small groups, making them a constant danger while traveling through the ruins of Washington, D.C. Also, the raiders I'm talking about here are just the generic guys you find throughout the game. Most of them are not connected to specifically named groups. Their weapons range from basic pistols, hunting rifles, and sawed-off shotguns, to more advanced gear like SMGs, assault rifles, combat shotguns, and heavy weapons like missile launchers and flamers. Some of them even use sniper rifles from high ground. On top of that, a few keep guard dogs at their side, and all of them wear different variations of raider armor. You'll know it when you run into these guys before you even see them. Their territory has spray-painted signs and bodies hanging from hooks. They leave symbols like the number 21 inside a circle, blood-written messages, and even painted mushroom clouds. Raiders don't form alliances with anyone, except for tolerating other raiders or slavers. They torture, kill, and mutilate both outsiders and their own kind. A lot of them wear armor decorated with trophies like severed hands. And even though we see them being these savage, murderous freaks, honestly, they have basically no loyalty to anything, and they'll run when the lone wanderer starts wasting them. Sudden Death Overtime is a small raider gang in Fallout 3 with a strange obsession, reviving the old sport of hockey. Led by goalie Ledoux, they see themselves as the last ice gang, claiming that every city once had these teams who fought in giant arenas while thousands watched. Their whole thing is around this idea, and Ledoux even uses it in his speech with hockey terms being used as slang, calling lies slapshots, and saying things like crossing sticks when meeting someone again. The group's ranks are even built around hockey positions, with wingers serving under the center and the center under the captain. You'll run into them while looking for the Nuka-Clear formula. They're apparently on a job. An unknown buyer hired them to retrieve the Nuka-Cola Clear formula from the Nuka-Cola plant. Ledoux called it a chance to make it big time, if they pulled it off. Winger Mercier was the one who was sent to recover the formula, but he didn't survive the mission. The rest of the gang, Senator Dubois and Winger Gervais, can be found with Ledoux outside of the Red Racer factory. You can settle things peacefully or fight it out like always. Honestly, it's a pretty cool little group, especially for Fallout 3. We usually don't get these cool unique identities for raiders. In Fallout 3's Broken Steel add-on, the bandits at Wilhelm's Wolf are part of the Split Jacks gang. They show up about 2 weeks after Project Purity is activated, and immediately start causing trouble by raiding and extorting water caravans, all of those tied to the water distribution network. But their loyalty to Split Jack is shaky. If he's taken out, they won't follow a new leader. Instead, they're willing to cut the lone wanderer in on their profits, if they do all the work. Work like convincing an officer that it's smarter to cooperate instead of fighting. They expect regular visits too. If you don't check in at least once a month, they assume you're dead and they'll split the loot on their own. If they're betrayed or cut out of the deal, they'll turn hostile. Anyone can join their ranks, raiders, mercenaries, wanderers, even ghouls, as long as they respect the rules. The group is both ruthless and practical, valuing profit over loyalty. I'm willing to bet that a lot of people actually didn't know about the whole Split Jack situation. It's kind of like the first taste of being a real raider in the Bethesda era of the series. Maybe this was the inspiration for Nuka World eventually. Who knows? The Fiends are one of the most dangerous raider factions in Fallout New Vegas. They've taken control of the southwestern ruins of the city, and they made Vault 3 their base. Led by Motor Runner, the gang is made up entirely of chem addicts, who all live for violence and chaos. Their origins aren't clear, but once they found Vault 3, their rise in the Mojave was sealed. The Vault dwellers inside had opened up trade with the outside world, but their trust cost them everything. When the Fiends arrived, they let them in, and the gang slaughtered the entire population before taking the vault for themselves. With a stronghold in place, the Fiends steadily grew into a major power on the edge of New Vegas. Their way of life revolves around chems and violence. The NCR considers them one of the biggest threats in the region, so much so that Major Daughtry at Camp McCarran puts bounties on their leaders. But while the NCR wants to wipe them out, they're stuck holding the line and can't commit enough forces to deal with them directly. The Fiends use Vault 3 as a fallback point, which makes them even harder to root out. Inside the gang, leadership is split between Motor Runner, Cook, Driver Nafai, and Violet. Motor Runner handles operations from Vault 3, while the others run smaller war parties. But this organization, if you can even call it that, is shaky at best. Fiends live in small roaming groups that strike settlements, caravans, and travelers. The more stable members stay in Vault 3, while the most unpredictable ones are left outside to terrorize the Mojave. Their camps are easy to spot, and they're covered with graffiti, scattered loot, and fires burning late into the night. Relations with other groups are complicated. They attack nearly everyone, but they're tolerated by the Great Khans, who supply them with chems and benefit from the chaos they cause for the NCR. Caesar's Legion also finds them useful, feeding them intelligence on troop movements so that they can use maximum damage. At the same time, Caesar despises them, seeing their chem abuse as weakness and planning to wipe them out once the Legion secures New Vegas. The Fiends are also feared and hated in Westside, where they're known to kidnap and kill the locals, while the Omertas on the Strip have problems with them interfering in secret gun shipments. Cook even engages in slave trading, buying captives from other criminals in the Mojave. He's an absolute freak, by the way. He's featured in my serial killer video if you want to hear more about him. The group scavenges and steals everything, from simple knives and shotguns to advanced energy weapons like laser RCWs, plasma rifles, and flamers. Some of them even wield chainsaws or rippers. Their armor is slapped together from Raider gear, and their helmets are decorated with skulls painted in neon war colors. Around Vault 3, they've gone so far as to build a defensive fence out of neon signs, turning the territory into a fortified nightmare. When dealing with the Fiends, you have a few options. With the right speech or barter checks, it is possible to trick Vault 3 guards into believing you're a Great Khan selling chems. This opens up the vault to trade, and lets the courier walk through without pissing them off inside. Outside of the vault, most Fiends stay aggressive no matter what. The NCR makes it pretty clear where they stand. Paying caps for the heads of Fiend leaders and hunting them down is one of the more direct ways to win favor with Camp McCarran. What makes the Fiends different than other raiders is how large, unpredictable, and chemically unstable they are. They're a real entrenched threat whose constant attacks keep both the NCR and local communities under pressure. Between their chem-fueled attacks, their insane leaders, and their stronghold in Vault 3, the Fiends are definitely one of the worst raider groups in the entire franchise. The mercenary raiders show up in Fallout 2, and they're not just any random raider group. They've got a specific job and some powerful connections. Their main base is a cave north of Broken Hills, and it's not an easy place to reach. You have raised plates, falling traps, barbed wire walls, and locked doors that have even more traps. This setup made sure only people who belong there or who were lucky enough to get through could make it inside. The group is tied directly to the Bishop family out of New Reno. The Bishops hire them to keep up the appearance of being raiders, but in reality, they're working for a bigger political game, which is pretty cool because most of the raider gangs we see in Fallout are just malicious, mindless groups. Their weapons come from the New California Republic, which gives you a good idea of how deep the operation runs. The whole point of their work was to put pressure on Vault City so it'd give in to the annexation of the NCR. In terms of leadership, the mercenary raiders are run by Angel Eyes, Blondie, Rico, and Shadow Who Walks. They weren't just another group of bandits trying to survive. I guess what ultimately made these guys unique is the fact that they ended up working like a shadow group for the NCR. We don't see roles like that for most of the raiders throughout the games. The Yakuza show up in Fallout 2 as a small group in New Reno. I think it actually surprises people that haven't played or heard about the older games. They're modeled after the old Japanese crime families, and in the Wasteland, they have martial arts discipline with a gangster culture. They're known for pushing their bodies to peak condition, building strength and endurance while training with both melee weapons and firearms. Their skills make them some of the toughest fighters in New California. Their whole philosophy is built around a warped version of Bushido. They treat killing as an art and see karma as the force that decides life and death. Honor is important to them, but it's not absolute. But they're a little different than the samurai they draw inspiration from. They'll retreat if death looks certain, believing dishonor is still better than dying for nothing. At the same time, some of them are ready to accept death, so apparently this belief is pretty fluid for them. Some will run, and some will fight to the death. Let's talk about their style and weapons. The Yakuza favor black leather outfits and fight primarily with wakizashis, which are short Japanese blades. Well, hopefully I said that right. Throwing knives are also part of their arsenal, but the wakizashis are definitely their signature weapon. They're probably one of the coolest gangs in Fallout lore. I'm hoping we get to see more of these guys at some point. Okay, I want to preface this section by saying that Fallout 4 has a lot of raiders and gangs, and weirdly enough, a lot of them are named or are different from each other, which is admirable in my opinion. Anyways, the point is there's a lot, and I'm going to run through them quick, so buckle up. The L&L gang in Fallout 4 is a raider coalition active in the Commonwealth. What's weird about them is that their focus is on targeting synths, which puts them directly against the railroad. After the destruction of the Institute, if that occurs, their activity increases, making them one of the railroad's biggest problems. Led by Captain Sally, the gang includes figures like Lucky Tatum, Big Maud, Stevie Buchanan, Tammy Mack, The Bruiser, and Johnny T. Walters. Each serves as a boss that the sole survivor is tasked with hunting down in the railroad quest to the mattresses. These bosses spawn across random raider-controlled locations, telling us that the gang isn't tied to one place, but exists as a wider threat across the Commonwealth. Ak is a raider leader, armed with a minigun and commanding her gang from inside the USAF satellite station Olivia. The group has turned the old military site into their base, stripping it for supplies while using it as a staging ground for attacks on the surrounding area. They're best known for targeting Abernathy Farm. During one of their raids, Mary Abernathy was killed after standing up to them, and then the raiders stole her family's locket as a trophy. This act made the gang a personal enemy to the Abernathys, and showed us how ruthless Akak's crew could be when intimidating local settlers. Boomer's gang lives at the outpost Zimonia, where they've made the place more than just a raider camp. They've planted potatoes, dug a well, and they've set up defenses along the road leading in. So maybe they've taken some steps towards sustaining themselves instead of just raiding for everything they need. That said, these precautions don't make them less dangerous. The gang still raids, extorts, and kills for the thrill of it. Boomer himself is entirely obsessed with heavy firepower, wearing power armor and carrying a fat man, making him one of the more dangerous raider bosses in the Commonwealth. Bosco leads the largest raider group in the Commonwealth, ruling from the DB Technical High School while extending control over most of Boston. The gang systematically took over key sites, forcing rival groups to submit or die. At the Shamrock Tap House, they locked enemies inside before releasing attack dogs, an insane tactic that brought the survivors under Bosco's command. Backstreet Apparel also fell, leaving only Hyde Park outside of his reach after Scudder refused to join him. Other raiders live in fear of Bosco, knowing that they can't match his numbers or his tactics. He avoids Libertalia, judging the terrain too difficult, but his dominance over Boston's heart is nearly absolute. Still, his power isn't going to last very long. He was bitten by his attack dogs, and the infection has driven him steadily insane. So even if we don't mix things up, he's more than likely going to go crazy at some point. Well, more crazy than he is now. The gang thrives on scavenging the ruins of Boston and raiding trade routes between Diamond City, Good Neighbor, and the wider Commonwealth. Their control of the city gives them the resources to stay in power, making Bosco's crew the single biggest raider force in the region. That is, unless the sole survivor becomes a raider, but that's a whole other thing. Chancer runs her gang out of the Andrews Station metro tunnels. The underground location gives them shelter and a defensible base, letting them avoid the constant fighting in South Boston. While they mostly keep to themselves, the gang still ventures out when they need supplies. The choice to stay underground is pretty smart, as the area above is packed with rival raider groups and super mutants. Cinder leads her gang from the Revere Beach Station, another underground stronghold like Chancer's. Their position on the peninsula keeps them isolated, with the gunners to the north and the super mutants to the northwest basically acting as natural barriers. And even though they seem pretty isolated, the gang isn't completely cut off. They still raid when they can, targeting Nordhagen Beach nearby, a small farm that grows gourds. It's not much, but it shows that Cinder's crew still looks for chances to strike. The combat zone started as a public venue, but by 2285 it had become raider-only territory. Inside, raiders come here to drink and watch the cage fights, with contenders like Kate stepping into the ring for their entertainment. The combat zone doesn't have a gang leader. Instead, it's more of an entertainment venue run by Tommy Lone Gun. He handles the liquor and keeps the fights going, giving the raiders what they want while keeping the chaos contained inside the theater. Apparently, they just showed up one day and took over, so we don't really know whose gang they belong to or if they're just common raider riffraff. Cuddy commands a raider gang from the Poseidon Energy plant on Boston's coast. The location gives them a strong base, but it's far from secure. The plant's old robotic defenses are still active, and Mirelurks roam the lower levels. Because of that, the gang sticks to the upper floors where it's safer. The raiding options are fairly limited. The nearby Warwick homestead is the only easy target, since pushing west is blocked by the gunners entrenched in Quincy. This leaves Cuddy's crew boxed in, relying on what they can scavenge and the occasional raid rather than expanding outward. Demo runs his gang outside of Hardware Town, using deception as their main tactic. One of the raider poses as a helpless wanderer outside of the building, baiting in anyone willing to help. Once you're inside, victims are ambushed by the rest of the crew. The gang has already killed several people this way, hiding the bodies in the basement after stripping them of supplies. It makes Hardware Town a deadly trap, But honestly, falling for this is pretty bait. Like if you live in the wasteland, most people are going to be extremely cautious of traps like this one. Griswold leads a raider crew out of Monsignor Plaza in central Boston. From there, they carry out the usual raider crimes: murder, extortion, and kidnapping, taking advantage of their position in the middle of the city. Griswold himself is more than just your typical raider boss. He likes to dabble in poetry, creating works that reflect the raider lifestyle. It's like a massive confliction from murder and gore to poetry. But hey, art is in the eye of the beholder. Just ask Pikmin. Helter Skelter has a raider gang out of the Malden Center metro tunnels. Like the other underground crews, this location offers shelter from dangers above, where super mutants and feral ghouls dominate the area. For a time, it serves as a stronghold to keep the gang hidden and supplied, but that ends when the Institute strikes. A platoon of synths storms the tunnels, wiping out raiders as they push deeper inside. Helter Skelter and his best fighters retreat to the terminus, digging in for a final stand against the machines. It turns the metro into a battleground, with the gang fighting for survival against overwhelming odds. Jared runs the raiders base out of the Corvega assembly plant in Lexington. To secure the town, his gang has first cleared it of feral ghouls, then fortified their position. They even left a hidden exit through the basement, which worked in their favor since caravans pass by Lexington several times a month, making raids easier to plan. Jared's real ambition was tied to the sight, a fortune-telling ability triggered by chems, like what Mama Murphy uses. He tried to force this power but failed, only gaining rumors that his gang handed out free chems. But that reputation actually helped boost his numbers. When the survivors of the Quincy Massacre crossed Lexington, Jared recognized Mama Murphy and sent Gristle and his raiders to Concord to hunt her down, while Lonnie led another squad to deal with the ferals in the nearby apartments. Jared also kept a close watch on the movements of the other gangs. After hearing about the sole survivor wiping out the raiders at Beantown Brewery, he tightened Corvega's defenses. News of Bosco's gang being destroyed made him both relieved and nervous, pushing him to send scouts to track where the mysterious killer would strike next. That's all assuming you did all of that before meeting this group. I'm sure you guys understand, but I just have to mention it. Lefty leads a raider crew under the psychic influence of Lorenzo Cabot. Guided by Lorenzo's powers, they manage to break through the defenses of the Cabot family, and then push into the Parsons State Insane Asylum. Their goal is to release Lorenzo from his underground prison. What they don't realize is the danger that they're tampering with. To them, freeing Lorenzo looks like another job or a chance at power. But they have no understanding of what this release would mean for the Commonwealth. Their actions put them at the center of a conflict far larger than they can grasp. The FMS Northern Star ran aground during the Great War in 2077, leaving its Norwegian crew stranded in the Commonwealth. They started as refugees trying to survive, and then they slowly changed over time as radiation turned the survivors into ghouls. By 2287, they're no longer just those survivors. They become raiders under the leadership of Rags. The beach cargo ship is their home, and anyone who sets foot on it is met with immediate hostility. We don't actually know if they step off the boat to go raid or get resources. I mean, you would assume so, but they will shoot your ass on sight, so definitely not friendly. Red Tourette leads a raider crew out of the federal ration stockpile near Boston. Controlling the site gave her gang a rare advantage over the other raiders: a reliable food supply. That nice little boon made them a target, and Tower Tom led his own gang in a raid to steal what they could. Instead of gaining control of the stockpile, Tom captured Red's sister Lily and used her as leverage, demanding shipments of food in exchange for her safety. What Red didn't know was that Lily died during an escape attempt, and Tom kept the truth hidden to keep the food coming. Red even sent an infiltrator into his gang, searching for answers, but they never uncovered Lily's fate. If Tom's crew is destroyed, Red continues to hope her sister is alive, believing she was moved before the slaughter, which is pretty sad, but who really cares? Red is a dirty raider. Rika's led a raider crew that turned College Square into a fortified base. From there, they staged raids and ran an extortion racket, charging travelers a toll for safe passage through their own territory. The scheme wasn't built to last. Traders began avoiding the area, and resentment toward Rika's leadership grew inside the gang. A mutiny was on the horizon, but the raiders never got that far. Feral ghouls overran College Square and wiped them out, leaving nothing but their failed stronghold behind. Scudder leads a raider crew out of Hyde Park. They're notorious for their brutality, skinning their victims and wearing the remains as trophies. This reputation makes them one of the most feared small gangs in the Commonwealth. I mean, I'd be terrified seeing a group of people wearing the skins of other people coming at me. They also stand out for refusing to bend the knee to Bosco, even as his gang took control of nearly all of Boston. St. John is a ghoul with ambition, and he commands a raider gang based in the Milton General Hospital. They've built a reputation for terrorizing Good Neighbor, with Sinjin himself targeting Kent Connolly, the man behind the Silver Shroud broadcasts. What makes Sinjin different from most Raider leaders is his vision. He isn't just chasing chems or supplies, he has the discipline and drive of a true warlord. If you leave him alone, he could have forged his gang into an army powerful enough to shake the Commonwealth. That's why Hancock takes a personal interest in ending Sinjin's rise, backing the effort to cut him down before his ambitions become reality. Slab leads a Raider crew that's been stalked and butchered by Pikmin, the infamous killer who turns his victims into art. After losing too many of their own, Slab rallies his gang to strike back, launching an assault on Pikmin's gallery to put an end to him. The raid turns the gallery into a battleground, with Raiders pushing through the twisted halls while Pikmin continues his work, I guess you could say. Slough commands a gang of ghoul raiders living in the irradiated depths of the Quincy quarries. The harsh environment keeps most rivals away, and even though they avoid direct conflict with other raider groups, they regularly clash with the gunners, who continue to push into the area. Recently, Slough's crew uncovered the sealed entrance to Vault 88, and since then, they've been working to break their way inside, hoping to strip the vault of anything valuable. Sully Mathis presents himself as a scavenger at Thicket Excavations, claiming he only wants to drain the flooded quarry for scrap. In reality, he's the leader of a raider gang planning to turn the site into their base of operations. Once drained, the quarry would give them both a fortified position and access to Mirelurks, which Sully intends to farm as an additional resource. His plan turns the excavation into more than just a raider hideout. It's a long-term foothold meant to expand his gang's reach across the region. Tower Tom runs his raider crew out of the Beantown Brewery. The location gave them an endless supply of beer, but food quickly became the real problem. To keep his gang from falling apart, Tom sent Sparta to the BAD-TFL regional office to scavenge for whatever supplies could be found, but it wasn't enough to keep desertion at bay. In a desperate move, Tom led an attack on the federal ration stockpile, home to Red Tourette's gang. The raid was costly, with half of his force wiped out, but they did manage to capture 2 hostages, including Red's sister Lily that we talked about earlier. Tom used her as leverage, forcing Red into sending food shipments. What he didn't know was that Red tainted the supplies with her dogs before handing them over. Lily's death during a failed escape only made things worse. Tom's crew hadn't restrained her properly, and when she was killed, he was left with no bargaining chip. Still, he kept up the lie that she was still alive to maintain the food shipments, leaving the whole operation built on that lie that couldn't last. James Wire once served as a Commonwealth Minuteman, but after the militia's collapse, he and his followers turned to raiding. They made their base at the ruins of Libertalia, a collection of wrecked ships lashed together into a floating settlement. In the beginning, they offered their services as mercenaries, guarding caravans to survive. That changed when merchants began cheating them on payments. Wire and his men responded by attacking the very caravans they once protected, shifting fully into banditry. This led to a deal with Bunker Hill. Rather than paying for protection, the traders paid them bribes just to be left alone. Word of their new power spread across the Commonwealth, drawing in fresh recruits and giving rise to a new raider presence on the bay. Judge Zeller leads a raider crew known as Zeller's Army, operating out of the East Boston Preparatory School. They make their living preying on caravans bound for Bunker Hill, ignoring the protection money merchants usually pay to keep the gangs at bay. Their constant raids make them a thorn in the side of the region's trade routes. The gang is infamous for its method of recruiting. Victims are tortured both physically and mentally until they break, at which point they're forced into joining the group. Despite the commanding title, there are hints that Zeller himself may just be another victim of this process. He carries a blood contract, suggesting he was once brainwashed into the same cycle he now enforces on others. Next week, or maybe the week after that, I'm actually moving, so I'm not sure if I'll get to a Tuesday video, but probably next week we'll finish off the Raiders from Fallout 76, and then move on to more factions. The series has been going amazing, and I really appreciate you guys watching. Remember, enjoyed time is never wasted time, and I'll see you in the next.